I knew that free agency, or just in general this offseason, was going to be a wild and wacky one in light of how late the CBA was ultimately agreed to, the condensed schedule. Like, there's going to be some movement. There are going to be some things that we have to react to. I didn't quite have an Angel trade on the bingo card. And I especially didn't have an Angel Reese trade on the bingo card to Atlanta on the first day of free agency. Like, we get to Monday, it's like, all right, cool, we're about to get qualifying offers, we're going to get some core designations, maybe we get some more rumbles about players planning on re-signing, but the real fun's going to start on Wednesday. The Sky and the Dream collectively said, well, hold my beverage. We've got a deal for you. Angel Reese, now a member of the Atlanta Dream, her plus second round pick swap rights in 2028, going to the Dream. The Chicago Sky receiving a 2027 first round pick from the Atlanta Dream and a 2028 first round pick from the Atlanta Dream. No players going back to Chicago. And so as I saw that news come through, first reported by Taylor Rooks, shout out to Taylor Rooks.
Shout out to Taylor Rooks. No, wait. Before you get to your initial thought, I'll sprinkle mine in because I know you are ready to go Usain Bolt style on this trade in particular. But it was weird because I remember over the weekend scrolling and seeing like Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard talking about how Angel Reese looked good in the red jersey. And I was like, well, that's funny. And then the Taylor Rooks tweet happened and I was like, wait, what's going on here? Do we have shenanigans? No, I won't say the word. But it was a lot to process at once. But the floor is yours, Nekias Duncan.
Oh no. It was I love / hate that so many of the reactions when big moves happen like this is like, wait, did that come from a real account? Or is this like Centel of some sort? Or people playing around on Twitter? So many people are like, I need to verify that this is actually Taylor Rooks' account. It's like, okay, that is her. What the heck is the package now? And then we eventually get the trade package, which I had immediate egg on my face during this. I was like, okay, if Angel's going to Chicago, again, we were dealing with virtually the entire league hitting free agency in some kind of way, but you still had Tahina Powell's contract. You still full of like draft right situation things. I was like, okay, cool. Surely, if the Sky are trading Angel Reese, they're going to get at least 3 of Tahina Powell, this year's first round pick, which Atlanta drafts 13 overall, or next year's first round pick. And then something else in the tweet. I was like, surely they get at least 3 of the 4 things. And then we get the trade details from Andy Constable of Front Office Sports. I was like, so they got one of those things, but they did get the 28 first. And then it just kind of devolved from there for me. As I was thinking about
before you devolve, can I ask one of my questions I had down in my notepad?
Yes.
This is just a thought. Don't jump me. Just thinking out loud here.
Come outside.
I understand. I understand the malpractice word is being thrown around. I get the feeling. I get the vibe. I understand. Mm-hmm. If the Chicago Sky opted not to draft Tahina Powell, who I think is a tremendous player who had a great year, has a great future, why would they then trade for Tahina Powell to pay her more money?
I think the easy answer to that question, Steve, is that we now have a W sample size for Tahina Powell. And so maybe some of the concerns that Chicago may have had and ultimately led to them not drafting her, maybe some of those were, if not completely solved, you at least feel better about based on the film that Tahina put together last year. That'd be my initial thought to that. But I do understand where the question is coming from on that front. I think for me...
Can I follow up before you go on your rant? Real quick. Just the thought, right? So the Chicago Sky do have the number 5 pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if we want, not Flau'jae, maybe we want Kiki Rice? Like, what if that's our point guard of the future?
Mm-hmm.
We want to pay that. Any credence there?
Lightly, yes. I guess my immediate rebuttal to that would be you don't hurt yourself by having both. Like, even if you feel like Kiki is your point guard of the future, like in theory, what Kiki does on ball plus what Tahina does as a shooter, you should have at least some future playing them together. Even if you don't start them together, you should be able to play them together in stretches. In theory, moving forward. And on top of that, like Chicago isn't ready to compete for a championship right now. So like I'm not necessarily as concerned about positional overlap, at least in the guard room right now, as we are trying to build this thing from the ground up. But again, I do understand like the line of thinking. Like I don't think that's an unfair question to bring up. Oh, go ahead. We can we this could be a conversation. We can go back and forth. What you have? Okay. Mhm, mhm,
They have kicked a
mhm,
singular can down the road as far as they could take it. There was no more kicking. The Rock could not go any further. It was time for Charlie Brown to miss, and
okay.
that came at the cost of Angel Reese, who you, in theory, traded up for and is now an Atlanta Dream on top of insert move, on top of insert move. The whole meal doesn't look great. The charcuterie board is in shambles based
Mhm,
on everything when you tie it all together. Can't defend that. But at some point, you gotta, this feels like we can't do this anymore. And so I know
mhm,
it's reported Angel Reese didn't request this trade. It was clear how Angel Reese felt about the Chicago Sky situation. And how tenable was that? We'll never know to a degree. But you know what? Before you get to your rant, I'll ask the question.
okay.
How many teams on April 6th would truly pursue an Angel Reese trade with this amount of players as free agents? Like if you were in the Sky front office, who would your second call have been?
I think in terms of the picks that they have, like I'm calling Washington. Like if you have 4, 9, 11, and something else, at the very least, I'm seeing
You
like,
sure
are
you're
you
calling
willing?
them? You sure you're calling them yesterday?
Well, they had some news that we're gonna get to as well. But like if I'm from the Chicago perspective, at the very least, it's like, okay, obviously there was a level of collaboration to where Angel ends up in Atlanta. Because I think if it was purely we are trading Angel Reese and we're going to get the best possible package, I don't think Atlanta is probably going to be in your top three in terms of what they can offer or what they're going to be willing to offer in a deal, right? But yeah, if I'm calling Atlanta, I'm calling Washington because of the amount of first round picks that they have. I am
Okay,
calling Connecticut because of what they have and some of the bigs that they have. So if we did just want to still
okay,
maintain a level of young, cost control, big man depth, and also maybe some pick equity, I'll call Connecticut for sure. You've already had conversations with both of the expansion teams. So at least see, like, hey, are you willing to do anything with, if not this first round pick next week, pick? I would imagine the answer is no, considering, hey, the 27 draft class may include some really special talent. And if we have a bad year one, we're going to be in position to not draft sixth and seventh. We could be in, we could have the number one pick. We don't really want to mess it up. So maybe it's a no, but I at least make those calls and have those conversations. 'Cause I think you could bounce around quite a bit, honestly, with this, because Angel is such a unique talent who is, again, cost control. And because she hasn't made an all W team, at least not yet, you're not even dealing with the similar bit to where like Leah Boston or Caitlin Clark, where they've made all W, they're going to have contract escalators before their rookie contract goes out. You don't have to deal with that with Angel yet. Yeah, like I want to see how can I maximize this if this is the button that we're ultimately going to press.
Okay. And so again, before Nekias, you get to your bars, do you think the Atlanta Dream were motivated to get Angel Reese in this scenario? Obviously, the fit market wise speaks for itself. But
Mhm,
if you look at what the Dream did last year on both ends of the court, the Bree
mhm.
Jones, Brittany Griner dynamic, the duo, what if we just meld that into Angel Reese? Because I think that Angel Reese can do all of those things. Defensively, we've seen growth, can switch, can hit different coverages, can put two on the ball. We trust that. But then offensively, hey, we have someone we can go inverted pick and roll with. We have someone we can play through the elbow with. We can throw it in the post. We can blame this guy, and I'm sure you will. But how much of this do you think was the Atlanta Dream saying, let's knock on this door and see if we just offer these two picks, if we can get a player that fits into what Carl Smesko wants to do? Because for what people doubt with Angel Reese, the rebounding speaks for itself. The growth, playmaking wise, speaks for itself. I think the attacks and being able to be a screener, a roller, the defense, being able to defend multiple positions, there's a good fit here. So
Mhm.
we can curse this guy out if we'd like. But did the Dream just kind of say, hey, I think we could do something here?
I think absolutely. So I think this is where I'm interested to see what reporting comes out, or even what I could potentially find out on that front in terms of who reached out to who. 'Cause I think, as you alluded to earlier, like, no, maybe Angel and her team didn't directly say, "Hey, I would like to be traded. Let's do something." I will say, I think both sides are in a place where it's like it's probably best if we move forward elsewhere, and let's see if we can work together to figure this out so this does not linger into the off season or linger into this next regular season, lingers into training camp, which we are like a week and a half away from, by the way. Let's see if we can pull something off. In Atlanta, like, yeah, we could add Angel Reese to our core without giving up any of our rookie scale or draft right folks, without giving up any of our top players. Yes, if we have the opportunity to do that, let's go ahead and do that. And we keep our first round pick for this year too, so we can add another young talent that we may be intrigued by, or maybe that's a trade up situation. Maybe that's a trade back and get a future pick situation to replenish what we just gave up in the Angel deal. Like, they still have a level of optionality. So this is where, like, before even seeing the on court fit with Angel Reese, where I agree with a lot of what you said, her use as a hub, inverted pick and rolls, the rebounding on both ends of the floor, the defensive versatility, all of those things make this a good move for Atlanta outright. The fact that they were able to pull this off without giving up, I don't want to say anything of consequence because those are still just two first round picks, but we didn't give up our best stuff and pull this off. Like, it's an A trade just off principle. And that's before getting into any of the off court effects where you've already seen ticket prices rising, a whole bunch of celebrities like, well, I'm going to Atlanta, yada, yada, yada. Like, Atlanta's already won this before we ship back to the Chicago Sky. So, yeah.
Before I let you go in on this guy, I have another alternate thought. This is not how this is supposed to go, by the way. Public. This is supposed to go completely different. I just want that to be known. I think for me, it gets interesting if you think about the Chicago Sky only solely in a vacuum, right?
Mhm.
Not stacking all the moves. How could they enter free agency where a whole lot of players are available and answer the Angel Reese question truthfully? How much do you think that could have factored into we need to do this now? We need to rip the band-aid off. Like, regardless of what you think about the package that returned, not arguing that, how much
Mhm.
is it we are not going to be able to have these conversations to get to our next part of what we're trying to do, where we're tearing this down to a degree, if every player or every agent to be like, what's going on? What's going on over here?
Yeah, I would say, just frankly, I think that was probably the primary motivator of this deal being done when it was. I think they flat out wanted to be like, okay, whether you feel better about our situation or worse about our situation, at the very least, you know what our situation is now. And so I can now have these conversations with agents. I can have these conversations with players like, this is the slate. This is what we have. These are the rookie scale players that we have. We have Camila Cardoso, who is just going to be the unquestioned top front court piece that we have. And this is how we feel like your skill set can match with her and how we want to grow with her, etc. Like the coaching staff is locked in. Front office, for last I heard at the very least, is locked in. This is what we are building from. Can you help us take our next steps? It is a much easier conversation to have. Now, again, to your point, that you can argue if it is a better conversation or a better path versus a week ago. But at the very least, there is a lot more clarity in Chicago, and it makes it easier for them to see what is realistic about what we can build with and how we can build this thing out moving forward. Now, to the Chicago side, I was in a headlock with this as we got the trade package. And the more that I thought about it, and then ultimately the more that I talked to people like close to the situation there and things like that, I ultimately landed closer to where I was with the Luka Doncic trade. To where I now have a better understanding and a stronger understanding of the logic that led to we have to trade our best young player or our best player. We have to do it. Regardless of if I agree or disagree ultimately. I have a much better understanding of why they felt they had to do this. I then get into phase two, and it's like, okay, if you are going to do this, again, I believe, cannot confirm this, but I believe there was a level of collaboration, and Atlanta was probably at the top of the list, and they got that done. In the event that it was anything less than that, you owe it to yourself as an organization to be like, hey, even if it's just a back channel thing, hey, Angel Reese is available. We need to have some sort of bidding war. Even if it still ends up being Atlanta, it goes from 27 first and 28 first to 27 first, 28 first, rights to Isabel Barles, et cetera, right? Like, I think you have to extract more from Atlanta in this deal if you do your due diligence and you ask around, like, okay, what can we get here, 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 and here? Even if Atlanta's number one on the list and that ends up being the landing spot. So, like, that part bothered me. And as much as you've layered out the context, Steve, when you framing these questions, and I appreciate it, it is very difficult for me not to look at what the last 5 years for the Chicago Sky have been like and look at this situation like, you can go even further, but like, you know, Sylvia Fowles, Elena Della, you can go even further. But like, it's hard to look at this in particular and be like, what on earth is happening at the very top? Forget the coaching, forget the front office. What is happening with ownership to where this keeps happening and these moves keep being layered the way that they do? We went from Chicago Sky, wait, their record is what? They won ship anyway, into, oh my goodness, they're going back to the finals. The Connecticut Sun said absolutely not. To everybody left in 2023. We are now hiring new names in the front office and things. James Wade left in the middle of the season. Okay, we got to clean house. We got to do all this. It's cool. Then we had the Marina Maybe trade, where you give up, I believe, 5 total picks in that deal, plus the rights to Leone Fivish. I can't hammer home too much on the Leone Fivish part, because that's very much a hindsight 2020 bit. But it's like, how did we get here? And it's like, okay, we get Teresa Weatherspoon in.
He brought it back. Keep going.
No, but like, okay, we have the Marina deal, which again, that happened before Jeff got there. So like, he's not responsible for that one if you're talking about just the GM. But like, overall ownership and things. Like, okay, we have this deal. It's like, okay, that's not ideal. You hire Teresa Weatherspoon before you hire your GM. And I tweeted immediately, I don't love that you have hired your head coach before you got your front office in place. Not that it can't work, but I don't really love the order of operations there. We get the Angel Reese trade up. Angel's there. You have the year on Teresa Weatherspoon. You get all the reporting at the end of the year about players not being sure what the role is, whatever fracas you want to believe out of that situation. Teresa Weatherspoon's gone after a year. It's like, okay, don't really love that, but I understand how you get there. You hire Tyler Marsh. Like, okay, we're going to build this more slowly, right? Look, we have Camila Cardoso. We have Angel Reese. We have a new coach that we're giving a long-term deal to. We're going to build this thing up. We're going to be intentional about how we're building it, but we're going to try to build something sustainable. Nope, we are trading the number 3 pick of the draft for Ariel Atkins. And we're doing that. We are also giving up swap rights in 2027 to our first round pick. And so now, if the Sky are bad, they have virtually no chance at having the number 1 pick in the 27 draft, because the Mystics can just be like, yeah, we'll just take that, actually. That is going to be fine. And then that flows into the Angel Reese deal, which again, I have a better understanding of why I think both sides felt like we need to make a move, but I don't think you got as much as you could have gotten from that situation. And if there was genuinely open bidding everywhere, I think the price in the overall packages would have been better almost by default if you open that up in a real way. And so it's hard for me to not look at the ownership group that is shepherded, multiple head coaches, multiple front office decision makers across this stretch. And it's like, what are you doing? What kind of environment are you fostering? What kind of decision making are you allowing to where you continue to stack all of these things? And now you're adding to the history of star or future star players leaving your organization earlier than they have to. Like, this is not just trading Angel Reese. Angel Reese is off of year 2 of her rookie scaled contract. For that alone, Steve, 2 more years of team control plus whatever extension you get there, or she hits restricted free agents. Like, you have 6 or 7 years at minimum of control, of contract control with Angel Reese. And you were punting after year 2 and you only got 2 firsts to show for it. And you gave up a pick swap in that deal on top of that. How are you trading Angel Reese and a pick swap?
Well,
It's
I mean, I think
it's
one thing I would say, a lot of decisions and directives do come from the top, and we don't necessarily have all the information as to why or when or how, but there is some times where the top says, "Get this done," and it gets done. So, who knows? I just for me, I'm just if we're doing the WNBA transfer portal to a degree with the draft in less than a week, as much as I value Angel Reese the talent, I have a plan that I'm trying to execute if I'm most teams, right? So I'm the Connecticut Sun. Sure, I'd love Angel Reese. That'd be great, especially we're moving to Houston, but we have bigs and we're doing something different, right? If I'm Dallas Wings, I have the number 1 pick. I would not like to talk to anyone for a little bit because I want to figure that out and get it done. If I'm Golden State, hey, we just were able to protect most of the 2 and we still lost people. No, I don't want to do stuff. Well, the Ace is going to call the Sparks. I have Cam Brink and Nekias Jackson. I'm good. On the Minnesota Lynx, I have the number 2. I'm fine. I'm good. Liberty, I've gotten everyone to come back. Phoenix Mercury, I'm trying to get everyone to come back. Washington Mystics, yeah, I heard you, but we just got a little bit better to a degree. So I think I understand Atlanta's motivation for this. I think I understand Chicago understanding they had to get it done. We can imagine the market to a degree, but it takes 2 to dance, it takes 2 to tango. And if you get in a scenario, it's like, I don't know if I want the player. I definitely want the pick. I have to get this done. This is where we're at. It's a restart for Chicago. So it's a full restart for Chicago to the degree of we have to go forward.
Mm. That's ultimately where they landed. You mentioned the Aces. It would have been cool if they had a 27 first round pick. Wonder what happened to that. But it
What
is
did happen
a
to that?
fascinating.
No, you don't want to talk about that. Continue on.
But no, fascinating move with obvious ripple effects across the league. As recording this on a Tuesday morning, we're actually going to get legit free agency movement starting on Wednesday. So I don't know what we're going to be reacting to on Friday when things really open up fully. But this is one heck of a way to kick things off. So we'll see what Chicago's plan is going to be. I would imagine they're going to major swings with some vets to kind of accelerate things and build things out around Camilo Cardoso. So we'll see who they have in mind on that front. Some interesting names have popped up, but we'll see how much Chicago's able to land. In Atlanta, oh boy, as I tweeted, and I'll close it there. We shift to some of the other W news. Late 4th quarter, Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard, Angel Reese, and Naz Hillman could be on the floor together at once. Good luck scoring. It doesn't matter who your 5th is at that point. Good luck scoring on that group when you have all 4 of them on the floor together. That defense is going to be nasty. This rebounding group, you're adding Angel to that. This is already a high free throw rate team. You're adding Angel to that. She helps this dream team quite a bit.
Well, we got to see what the full dream team is. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we gotta
that is
we
true.
gotta piece some things together.
That we do. I'll quickly say, shout out to Angel and just her team, just having all this together. That trade's announced, and it felt like 45 minutes later. Here's a whole photo shoot. We've got promotional things to say. Like they had that together. Her team always has things on lock. So like I chuckled at it a little bit, but I do genuinely respect like how that all came together and how quickly they were ready to brand Angel in Atlanta. That's going to be a fun time. Now, as we move forward, we are fresh off of expansion things, Steve. We have the expansion rosters. How did you feel about how the draft went? How it was presented? Were there any surprises for you during the expansion draft situation or context rather?
I didn't have an issue. I mean, I think everything's condensed to a degree, and 1, happy the fire and tempo are here. 2, happy to see what kind of base they can get on as far as which players they would like to, what philosophy they want to attach to. Like, again, there's a lot of how many of these players will be on the roster to a degree, but that part's done. We can start arguing about a list that we'll never, ever, ever see ever, 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 ever. And so I was intrigued. I was intrigued by the fact that Bridget Carlton was the number 1 pick from the Portland Fire, but based on the comments from the GM, it makes a lot of sense as far as why they would pursue Bridge and kind of build a not build a base around, but understand the importance of having a player of that caliber with what they want to do. So having a Bridget Carlton, being able to add a Carla Lake, being able to add a Shook Sutton, potentially having a Sarah Ashley Barker. I feel like they had a type of player. They wanted versatility in the forward room, being able to get a big like Louisa. Like they just wanted skilled talent that fits into what they want to build going forward. So I thought that was interesting. With Toronto, big thing for me, and I got yelled at, I got booed. I told you Marina Mabry may be unprotected. And I thought that was a big swing from the Toronto Tempo to say, hey, we're trying to make a splash and make something happen and be impactful. Marina Mabry, come on down. Because while people may say Marina Mabry is of a certain caliber, that is a bucket getter, that is a playmaker, and that is something that we can now add to our program and build around to a degree. And so Marina, especially, being, I think, she wasn't the first or second pick for them, but adding Marina had to be a win for Toronto. And so you can kind of see the versatility aspect, trying to get some size, trying to get some switchability, getting different kind of bigs. When you, when you look at Klundikova and Niara Sabali, being able to have Julie Alamond and what she brings to the table on both ends of the floor with Lexi Held, like you can kind of see Aaliyah Nye, what they want to have in their programs. I think this is where the growth of the W will get interesting because these teams are going to be able to build identities from the start. I don't think everyone's going to do what Golden State did last year. Shout out to Natalie Nekias. I don't think that's going to happen. But we're going to have what we want to do, the type of players we want to add, and we're going to get to the chicken right away. And so that's where it gets interesting. Again, got to see who they draft, got to see who they're able to sign, but you get philosophy from both of these teams. And so I was impressed with both of them as far as just kind of stamping what they wanted and how they wanted to get to it.
I think that's a great way to frame that. Like looking at the versatility of Portland and looking at still skill size in Toronto, but like felt like more of an emphasis on we want to make sure we have players that can knock down shots from the perimeter to really build this thing out. We do have good front court passes. We've got good front court screeners on top of that, so we can unlock things on and off the ball. To your point, we do have to have the entire draft free agency period, but like it was cool to see that come together. I guess for me, I want to zoom out and circle back to some of the, I guess, perceived protections heading into the expansion draft about surprises versus like biggest takeaways. We could start with Marina, to where when we had our conversation on the pod, I said my 4 firm would have been Layla Lacan, Sanaya Rivers, Anissa Morrow, Aaliyah Edwards. And you have the conversation with, okay, are we protecting Marina Mabry, or do we make the gamble that we could leave her unprotected and maybe bring her back? And Toronto's like, nah, I think we will take Marina Mabry. That is fine. And so Connecticut keeping their young players is interesting to me. The Marina gamble, if it was a gamble, lens with her in Toronto. So I'm fascinated to see how Toronto continues to build things out around her. She may be the best player on the roster right now. I don't know if they want her to be overall, but that's going to be a fun one. Can I talk about the Las Vegas Aces very quickly? Is that a thing I'm allowed
Carefully.
to do on this here podcast?
Carefully.
Carefully indeed.
Hey, producer, get me out the camera shot. Thank you.
That's crazy. Steve calling for the one shot is insane, and I'm actually in the one shot. That's podcast power right there. We talked about it on the pod. I ultimately wrote a piece giving my protection predictions and whatnot, and I figured Aaliyah Nye on a rookie contract. I think she's going to be safe. And considering that they had Kate Martin on a rookie contract last year ahead of the Golden State Valkyries expansion draft, I don't think they want to lose young wing that is you have a level of team do that 2 years in a row. And I'll be if I'm not watching the expansion draft special on ESPN and Aaliyah Nye pops up. I was like, wait, there's no way they did this again. I can't believe they did this again. And after thinking more about it, go ahead. You're back
Well,
in the
the
shot now.
guys.
What's going on?
Well, the guys, if you shenan once, then
Oh,
you'll shenan
you'll
again.
shenanigan. Yeah, I guess you will. There's no way you're proud of that. Okay. I was like, there's no way you do that. So as I thought more about it, I think it is clear that the Aces, one, prioritized the restricted free agents they had in both Nalissa Smith and Kirsten Bell, in addition to their big three. That'd be my guess at the very least. But I think looking at what free agency can be for them heading into literally tomorrow, if you do lose Aaliyah Nye, you now just have the full $7 million to work with heading into this free agency period. Like you just have nobody on the roster at the moment. And so you can really mold this thing and build around your Asia, Jackie, Chelsea core in however way you see fit. And so removing the rookie scale, like the bump up the Aaliyah Nye got and all the other rookies in the W got, like it does free up a little bit more salary in a roster spot. So like I could get the logic behind that. And even then, I kind of circle back to if your plan ultimately was not to keep Aaliyah Nye long term, but you can argue the merits of that if you want. I would still protect her, and then like we get to draft day, can we get a second round pick for her, or can we get like? I think you had her under contract. You had more room to at least dictate how you lost her at bare minimum, and so I still kind of found a level of like, why not protect her to move her later versus just letting her walk type beat. So that was a surprise to me. So we got the Marina surprise, we got the Leah Nye surprise, and now look at the Los Angeles Sparks. That Julie Alamon just one of the most impactful players for the Sparks last year. We'll look at on-off stuff, but just in general, her playmaking and decision-making, her defense in key moments also just popped for them in the second half of the year. So good player, really good selection. I was just kind of expecting between Azare Stevens and Ray Burrell, like one of them would be elsewhere because I didn't think you could protect Kelsey and De'Erica and Rakia and Cam and then like both of them, like you could only protect up to 5. And so for both of them to still technically be safe, or at the very least they were safe from the expansion draft, like that was also a surprise for me. I think those are probably the larger ones for me. And then Dallas, like they just had so many players that you could choose from that are on rookie scale deals or have some kind of team control. So I was curious to see like where they would land in terms of protection. So seeing Haley Jones and Louisa Geisel to be the 2 player selectives, like okay, so they must have prioritized the guard then. JJ Quinterly, Isaiah James, etc. So like that was an interesting one for me as well.
You didn't
What we
listen to me when we did the expansion
got?
exercise. You didn't absorb anything I said. You didn't believe anything I said. You didn't. I told you none of those Sparks can go nowhere, man. I told you that.
You did. You did say that.
I sure
like,
did.
The route raised a little bit. That's all. Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing for me is like Portland's mission was loud to me when you have Haley Jones, Chloe Bibby, and Emily Inksler. Like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, but it'll be interesting to see how these teams kind of come together, especially as free agency unfolds, especially as money dries up, especially as sacrifices are made to be on teams. Like, again, roster construction could get very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Quickly on the news front while we're still here. The Washington Mystics, as we kind of alluded to earlier, we brought up the as we talked about Angel Reese and potential landing spots outside of Atlanta. The Washington Mystics firing their GM, Jamila Weideman, after 1 season. ESPN's Alexa Philippou had the report on that, had an article ready. Some key nuggets from that piece. The decision was made by Monumental president of basketball, Michael Winger, and was a direct of serious strategic differences, elite source told ESPN. The misaligned visions became more apparent as the team geared up for free agency. That was interesting to me. In relation to Whiteman no longer having a job, head coach Sidney Johnson will assume control of basketball operations, and we'll see in the future if they ultimately want to add a GM. But it seems he's going to be taking on more of the decision-making power there. And last thing for me from the piece that stood out, as free agency tips off this week, negotiations can begin Wednesday. The Mystics are looking to surround their young players with higher level proven talent, a source said. So that circles back to the opening quote about serious strategic differences. And my immediate question, and one that I'll pose to you, Steve, is do we think this is an instance of we want to accelerate the timeline because of how good we were last year or how much better we were than expected last year? And we have this free agency period. Let's add some vets. Let's take another step. And maybe Jamila Whiten is like, well, let's continue to build this more methodically. Do you feel like that could be the friction, or is there anything else do you feel like could lead to something like this? Because serious strategic differences feels pretty loud in this case.
I mean, number one, shout out to Stanford number 10, Jamila Weideman. Always. Now, to that, we kind of do this thing where we speculate on information that we have no idea about. And this just could have been a power struggle to a degree where it may not be about selling a rebuild. It may be about a single player. And if we're misaligned on that, okay, I'm going to grab this power to a degree, or this is going to change and alter this. Like there's the dynamics and the politics of basketball front offices are different to a degree because you're never going to know the true answer, the true reason on why something occurred. And so for me, it's a fruitless exercise to a degree because we don't know. We don't know who decided what. We don't know what it was. But the fact that it said serious strategic differences doesn't necessarily mean to me automatically one side wants to go swing for the fences and the other doesn't. Because I think if you're in the W and you're the Mystics and you have accumulated this amount of young talent, you can add more. Obviously, you're going to try and get some additional players. It just speaks to something went left as far as what the plan was long term. So I wouldn't attach it necessarily to, well, no, I want to build to the draft. How many teams have truly, 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 truly sat in the W and said, I'd like to build to the draft? It's a 2-year record. How many teams have really wanted to do that? So it's different. I don't think it's that. And I feel like we've seen a lot of teams be comfortable swinging the bat to add a piece. You know, we saw Connecticut add Marina Mabry. And Marina Mabry was like, hey, can I leave? And Connecticut was like, no, you can't.
No.
Like,
but Natasha Cloud got
not,
to no.
It's not unusual for teams to try and add talent plus their young talent because we want to be the best we can be. Whatever that was, I don't know. But I don't necessarily think it's the discussion that's being had.
Okay. That's fair. I figured I'd get your thoughts as someone that's like actually worked in like a professional front office and things. Like, okay, do you have more that you got to shed on that front? Maybe not that specific situation, but just like how these kind of things unfold. Because reading against serious strategic differences, like, okay, for me, really, this is just not. I think George Amore is this, and you think George Amore is that. You get into serious. I feel like there's a philosophical difference between the two. So, you know, maybe we get more reporting out of Washington at some point to get a better answer. Maybe we just never find out, to your point. But that one caught me by surprise. I thought she did a tremendous job in her 1 year in Washington and has helped them be very well situated for the future moving forward. Again, heading into next week's draft, 4th pick, 9th pick, I think 11th pick and 13th pick, but at least 4, 9, and 11 that they can select 3 different players. They can consolidate however they want to do it. And they also just have Sonia Citron, Kiki Ariafa, like you just have a really good foundation to build on. So we'll see what happens with Washington this week and moving forward. Other quick hitters in terms of news, Asia Wilson has publicly stated, like, yeah, I'm coming back to Vegas. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Talked a little bit earlier about the Aces planning on being a team that's going to offer her a supermax. I would imagine she accepts that. That's a lot of money. But Asia also saying, yeah, I want to be in Vegas. Not a surprise, but that is out there. The New York Liberty, Steve. As we talked about free agency in the lead up a week or so ago. It's like, hey, I feel like if there's going to be movement, I'm keeping an eye on Jonquel Jones. She could maybe be the biggest domino that could fall in this case. But Breanna Stewart announced on her podcast, I'm back. Sabrina Ionescu during Team USA camp says I'm back. Uh, Jackie Powell of Sports reporting that Jonquel Jones plans to be back. So the Liberty have their big three. Are you excited about the New York Liberty bringing their big three back under new coaching? And in general, I guess, what would you like to see them aim for in free agency to round their core out?
Gotta hit the margins. I think you want to have more versatility, have a blend of size, have some shooting, be able to defend different lineups. But yeah, let's do what we do. We have a proven product. Let's improve on it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Excited to see Benaj Laney Hamilton back
Are,
at some point.
are you excited for the Liberty coming back? I feel like that's an important question.
Yes, like I think this is a very good trio. They have won a championship together. And I'm curious to see like what Chris DeMarco does with this group and how that differs from what Sandy Brondello did. Like this is why I thought Jonquel Jones was going to be an interesting domino in this, decide to return or go elsewhere, because her usage has kind of been a source of friction in New York. Sometimes heavy post touches, sometimes just a lot of spacing for her. She's been trying to find her way. So I'm curious to see, like, now that we know all three of them are coming back, I'm ready to see preseason action with them. But those three, Leonie Phoebus is still there, but Laney Hamilton comes back. Like, that is an elite starting five.
Yeah, you get the lineup back. And if they can keep Natasha Cloud, oh, buddy, it gets interesting. Very quickly, before we leave, are you ready for the Seattle Storm to become the Seattle partly cloudy?
That's what we go. That is, oh dear. In the rumor mill, likely that Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins are elsewhere next year. Like, that is not a thing that I have on the bingo card. I figured you have those two back, and maybe it's okay. What happens with Ezzie Matbagor? What happens with Brittany Sykes? To a lesser extent, what happens to Gabby Williams? Though I would imagine she's back as well. If those two leave, I am fascinated for what that looks like. Like, I immediately think what the Skylar in Minnesota look like, especially depending on what Minnesota does with the number 2 pick of the draft. Like, if they go big, like, do you get Skylar in the point guard room to upgrade there? There are a lot of different places Skylar fits, for sure. And with Nneka, she's still so good. So incredibly good. I have some ideal landing spots for Nneka Ogwumike, but for the interest of time and for the people that I care about in my life, I'm not going to do that on this podcast. Maybe we do it on Friday. But thank you to those who listened and or watched this episode of the Dunker Spot podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We are on Apple, Spotify, RIP Google, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. Subscribe to the Yahoo NBA YouTube channel if you haven't already. Plenty of great content dropping on the channel daily. And we're there every Tuesday and Friday. So you want to make sure you're rocking with us as well. You can follow me on socials at Nekias NBA. You can follow Steve on socials at Steve Jones 20. And with that, we will catch y'all later in the week.